Welcome back to Hogback Observatory in Gallup, New Mexico. This is a series of videos to demonstrate how to assemble a PureTech telestation observatory. Okay, we are here in my garage and I'm going to show a few things about assembling your roof. First thing is, with your paper instructions, you're going to receive this sheet of paper. This is a diagram for putting your roof together. The roof will come in sections. Okay, that'll be, for my size roof, it was 16 sections. Okay, as you'll notice here, my roof is a split roof for the size of my observatory. Splits in the middle, opens up, and then closes with the motors that you saw earlier in the videos. So I'm going to put together basically one side at a time of this roof. It's best to start with your corners, then put in your centerpiece, extend it on either end, then go to the other side and do the same. Do your corners, put in your centerpiece there, extend it on either side, and then once that's all done, you'll have this top piece that's made of two pieces that'll be open. Those are your cap pieces. Those go on last. Okay, so you're going to do your perimeter first by doing your corner pieces, then add this one in the center, then do your extension pieces that will go to the end rail for that section. You'll do the same on the opposite. Then once that's all set, you'll put the cap pieces on. Okay. Now, as I said, mine came in 16 pieces. How many pieces will depend on the size of your observatory. I have half of them up there getting ready to put together, and half are still here in the garage. You'll notice on each of these they have put a piece of blue tape with the numbers on them. Okay. These numbers then correspond with your diagram. Piece 2 and 3 go together to form this corner, and then 4 and 5 for that corner. Same over here. 2 and 3 will go together, and then 4 and 5 for the corners. The 6 piece, there's 2 of those, will be the center. The extension pieces, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then the caps, number 1 and 15. Okay. So here's the caps here, the extension pieces. Number 6 is the centerpiece for the other side. So what you want to notice on these is some of those have a large lip that comes over. This is the top. This will be facing the sky. This goes over your building. This screws into the slide rails. Okay. Some of them have a small lip, and it's not that one I want to show you. That will be this one I want to show you right there. Okay, see how that lip is a lot shorter. Okay, this one is much bigger. The reason for that is because obviously where the lip goes over the front or the back wall, then the crossbeam there is just right up top, and that's where that's where those will attach. The ones that go over the slide rails that are on the side go over and drop down a lot farther. That's why it's a bigger lip here. I'll point that out up on the observatory when we get there. Just keep that in mind, because these holes, as we go up there, you're going to see those need to be set with the slide nuts and the button bolts that are up there that bolt through these. Bolt these into the slide rail or the cross piece. Okay, and you're going to have to get that prepped so that the slide nuts that go behind here are lined up. I'll point that out up there. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble having those slide nuts in the correct position to where when you put this piece on there, you can line your button bolt up and the drop-in nut will be right behind there to screw it into. If they're all bunched up, as they say in Firefly, you're going to play Mary Hobb trying to get all that stuff lined up to bolt it together. But we'll go up there and point that out and how we're going to stage those bolts or the drop-in nuts to be in the right position. Okay? And also show you how to caulk it, where to caulk it, and we'll start with the process. So again, they'll come out in sections depending on the size of your observatory. And with your instructions, you will have this diagram which will show you how to put together your roof pieces. Do your corners first, then your centerpiece, then extend it. You're going to do that on the other side too, so you end up with your perimeter all put together first, and then these two cap pieces will go on the top of it all. Okay, so we're up where my observatory is here, and you can see I have one of the pieces up here. This is a number 5 here, just 4 and 5 form this corner, 2 and 3 that corner, same thing 2 and 3 there, 4 and 5 on that opposite corner. So as I showed in the previous video, you'll notice here the side pieces, let me get my finger right here, come and the lip comes over and it drops down to this rail right here. That's where your sliding nuts are in that top rail, and your button bolt will go through those where these holes line up to fasten it to the rail. So that's got the bigger lip. The smaller one is here that I showed you because it goes over the back and it bolts right into that top rail. Okay, so to prep this, what you want to do, these will all be already like all kind of bunched up somewhere in the rail. You want to loosen them a little bit, move them out of the way, and then you want to count how many slots are in your panel. This one has 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you want to move those bolts out of your way, and then you want to take your panel and hold it up where it's going to go, where it's right at that corner. And you'll see here, everywhere there was a slot in that panel, I made a mark on the rail. Okay, all the way down, 6 of them. And then I took the button bolts out of the first 6 slides and slid them in, so there's one pop-in nut or sliding nut, whichever one. These aren't the pop-ins, these are the sliding ones, but they're lined up with each one of those marks. You want to do that because once you put your panel up there, if that's not lined up with the slot in the panel, then you're not going to be able to bolt your button bolt in there to hold the panel in place. These are all bunched up. There's no way you're going to, unless you have something very long, guess it could be done, long and skinny, you could push one nut at a time behind there once you have the rail up there, or the roof piece up there, and you could slide the nut, line it up with the hole at that point. That's going to be a tough do. So my process is to put your panel up there, mark where the holes are going to be, where the holes are in relation to that rail, move your slide nuts there. That way once you put the piece up there, they should be in line, so you can just take your button bolt, put it right in there and screw them in. Okay, that's why we went ahead and prepped that and indexed all those slide nuts. We will do the same thing on this corner, hold the piece up, make the marks where the different holes are going to be, take the button bolt out of the slide nuts behind them, slide them over, line them up with those marks, and you should be good to put the 2 pieces together. Now I'm going to do one thing a little bit different also. I'm not going to just put one piece at a time up there for the corners. For the corners, I'm going to pre-assemble them. Same process out there to make all your marks, prep everything. But in here is where I'm going to put these together. I'm going to put my beads of caulk where I need to put them, and I'm going to put the 2 corner pieces together in here and bolt them up. That way when I go out there, I can lift the whole corner piece. These are not heavy. I can take the whole corner piece, set it there, and set in a couple of button bolts at the ends of each, and it should hold it there while I do the rest of the button bolts into the slide nuts that are behind them. And that way this whole corner will go together at once, already caulked, already sealed on those two panels. So I'll come back when I'm ready to do that and show you, and it should work. If not, it'll be a failure and I'll have to think of a different process. But that should do it that way to get each corner in. Actually, when I get ready to put these together, I'll come back with a short video added into this. Actually, I'll stitch these videos together so it'll look like one big long one, but it'll be the process of how to caulk that, bolt the two pieces together. Okay, in the crate that your observatory came in, there's going to be a bunch of boxes, have different stuff in them, ranging from your motors to roof pieces to hardware, other things. In the hardware box, there's going to be a bunch of bags in there with different hardware. These pieces for your roof will be in there. You can tell these because the bolts have a washer on them with a gasket on the back. Just like these extra ones here. Not really extra, they're for the other side of the bolt. And then you'll have the nuts that are in there. These are what you bolt your roof panels together with. Where they connect to the building, you'll have, you know, the button bolts and the slide nuts that are there that I already pointed out. But these are the pieces that hold your panel together. Okay? We'll go through how you do that as we do the caulking. And in your package, I'm going to move over here, you will have some tubes of caulk. So this is what we're going to need next to start assembling this roof, is your caulk and your hardware to bolt the panels together. Okay, as we can see, I've got the perimeter portion of half the roof put together. And as I mentioned before, started with the corner piece and then just worked my way around from there. Now I'll kind of just go up here on this ladder and show you what I did. Actually, first I'll go out here and I'll show you, as mentioned in the earlier video, the system worked out very good to hold each piece up here individually, then mark. I used a red marker where all the slots were going to be in each panel, then moved the panel out of the way and took the slide-in nuts and moved them up to meet up with those marks. And then when I was able to put the panel back on, all the slide-in nuts were right behind them, and I was able to bolt them in with the button bolts. So that system worked out very well. Again, you always want to start with your corner, do a piece either way. I started with the back piece on this corner, did that piece, then did the next one, and then continued across around the corner and up, and then did that piece there, which, you know, matches up with the end of the first, you know, one half of the roof. Now right here you'll see where each panel has a lip that comes up and over on one side and a smaller lip that comes on the other side of the panel. So when they come together, the one panel sits over the top of the other one to help it from leaking. Okay. What you want to do on those for caulking is in the paper instructions that kind of shows the roof put together, and then to come underneath here and just caulk underneath. That's not really a good way to do it. I understand why it says that in there, because a lot of people will put the panels together and then want to caulk it. But if you think about it, all that's doing is that's caulking at the very bottom. So that's just preventing, if moisture already gets between where the two panels come together, it'll be stopped by the caulking at the bottom. Well, that's not what you want. You don't want to let water intrusion get between the panels and work its way down to the very bottom and then try to keep it from just dripping into your observatory. You want to stop water intrusion from the top. Don't let it get in there to start with. So the best way that you need to do this, and here's an example here. This is an end piece, so this one isn't going to have holes in it, because that's going to go up here at the very end. But where all the panels come together, and one of them like this has a large lip and one of them just has a small lip, and they come together and then they all bolt together. So where that happens, for instance, here's one here. Okay? You want to caulk these before you bolt them together. Don't wait to bolt them together and then caulk the bottom. So you're going to go where these are going to come together and get bolted, and you're going to put a bead of caulk along the top, just above those holes, come down, and then below them holes you can even go squiggly in between a little bit if you want, but at least do above and below the holes. That way when these panels come together and you bolt them, it squishes that caulking and it gives you a barrier at the very top to prevent water from getting in the first place. And then if any gets past these bolts, then you also have that bead below, so it's not going to come down in to your observatory. And then if you want, just for extra protection or aesthetics, if you want it to look good, then run a bead there, smooth it out so it's nice and smooth and everything will look nice and tight. You can do that if you want to, it's up to you. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to explain how I did this. Now I'm doing this by myself, so this was a one-man job. The best way is to do it with two people, one on the outside of the building, one on the inside, and it'll be a lot faster, a lot easier to hold these in place, these sections. Let me go to the other side so I'm a little more out of the sun here. Now I'll explain how I did this. So if any of you want to do this by yourself or have to do it by yourself, you can. Again, if you do it with two people, it's the same process. It'll just be quicker, a little easier. So up here you can see the bolt either side of it. And if you look here, you'll see the bolt in there with the washer. And on the other side you put another washer and then your nut. And you tighten those together and it squeezes together. And of course in between here is where that caulking was run, on the inside between these two, top and bottom of the holes. Okay? So what I did is I went on the outside, I held up a panel, actually put it up there and then took my clamp and clamped it to hold that piece while I marked those red lines where the slide-in nuts needed to go. Okay, then I removed the panel, moved the slide-in nuts over to those marks, and put the panel on again and clamped it on there, and then put the button bolts through there, lined up with the corner, and that was the first panel. Okay, a little flexible at that point because it's only connected at the back, but it's okay, it'll hold fine. Then for the second piece for the corner, I did the same thing. I held it up there. Actually, I brought it up here, and then I put one of these bolts through without the washer on this side. I just ran the bolt through, put the nut on a little bit, just so these two panels would hold together. The lip was over the building, so it was supported there. Then I went to the outside, and I brought it together at the very end there and did the same thing. Put one bolt in the end, just loose to hold them together, and that helped to stabilize it, while then, you know, these were pushed together in the corner up against the building. I made my red lines where the drop-in nuts needed to go. Then I took this loose, moved the slide-in nuts over to where the red lines were, and then I went ahead and caulked in between. Then I brought this back up, set it there, brought it together, put this bolt in here, not tight, snugged up with the gasket in there, snugged it but not tight so it could move a little bit. One outside, went to that corner, put in that bolt and nut, tightened it up, not completely tight but just snugged, and then put in the button bolts because it was lined up with the slide in or the drop in nuts that I put there. Then once all those were tight, I went ahead and proceeded and worked my way up, like 3 of them down there, put in all the bolts, the washers, tightened it, came on the inside, started here, and finished up with tightening that one. You don't want to tighten so far one way and then another. Not that these panels are so flimsy that it's going to create a bubble there, but you want a nice even tension along your seam. So like I said, this one wasn't all the way tight, it was just snugged. And then I went there and did that one, put in the button bolts, and then worked up this seam, 1 bolt at a time, putting it in, tightening it, so you got a nice even tension along that whole seam. Then came to this side, put in that one, this one, that one. And just kept working that way. You can work, trying to stay out of the sun, if I can, and you do the same thing here. I laid this piece over, put 1 bolt in here, just snugged, 1 outside, put 1 bolt there, just snugged. So everything was lined up there, made my red marks, took this loose, moved the slide-in bolts up to those red marks, caulked in between these, put this back over, put this, just snugged it, went to that corner, snugged it up on the outside, put in all the button bolts, tightened that up, and then worked my way up on the outside as far as I could reach, came in the inside, and finished tightening these all up. That's the process. You just keep going along and building it. Start at a corner, build your corner, and then add your pieces, do your corner, add your last piece there, okay? With 2 people, exact same process. It's just faster because you don't have to go in and out, in and out. You got 1 person on the inside, 1 on the outside. It makes it faster, but the process is still the same. You need to put that panel up there. You need to mark where the holes are on the outside, where you're going to bolt it in. You need to move the panel, move the drop-in nuts where those lines are to line it up. Caulk, bring them together, bolt in the button bolts, bolt up along your seam. Same process, whether it's 1 person, 2 person, doesn't matter. And then that way, when it's done, these are all together. You actually have double caulk, because again, you're caulked above the holes. Bring your caulk gun down, go below the holes if you want to, and do it extra, you go a little zigzag down here if you want to get some more in between. But at a minimum, have a line above, below, of course come around the ends here so it's a complete circle here. So you got protection. So water won't get from the top, won't get in. If some get past those bolts and those washers, it won't get past this one to drip into your observatory, okay? Simple and easy. I mean, it takes time, but it's not complicated. It's just time consuming. Okay, next I'm going to put the cap on this side. And once I do this side and finish the cap, I'll push this side out of the way while I put that cap on. And that'll be good to go. And then I can start building the other side. Exact same process. And then once the whole thing's there, they can come together. You set your gears in your gear wheel into your gear rail there, and I'll go over that again. I did before, but I'll go over it again, and everything will be ready at that point. Okay, so I'll show after I do this center cap how all this connects, these different brackets here and here. And of course it will bolt in all the way along the perimeter and this side above my head too. and how you fasten these, fasten everything together. I'll do another video for that. Okay, so here we have the full roof completed. Okay, so the things we'll touch on is the cap pieces. Now, the caps for either side are gonna just sit down on top of the perimeter panels. Once you have those in, as I showed earlier, then you're just gonna need this cap piece in each side. And that just literally goes on top and just sits down over the lip on the perimeter panels. Now on this, the one thing you will need is 2 people. Just because you can't get to these bolts by yourself unless you use some trickery to do it single-handed, but it's much easier to do it with 2 people. Reason is, once you set that cap on, you can have one person inside with a wrench, whether it's a socket or open end, closed end wrench, whatever, to tighten these down. And on the outside, the way I did it is I had a ratchet with a few long extensions on it, and then the bit in the end that would, fit into the bolts, and I would put them on the end while the person on the inside could flex the panels a little bit to get the holes to line up just right. And then from the outside, then I would push that bolt through the hole on the end of the extension. And then the person on the inside would put the washer and then the nut on there and then tighten it and then, get it snug. And then on the outside, I'd use the ratchet to tighten it down. And we did that and just worked our way around, all the way around on this cap. And then, of course, after I put the perimeter together on this side, which I did the same way as the other side, did that single-handedly, but 2 people would make it easier, but then use the same technique for the top cap over here, 2 people, 1 inside, 1 outside. So once you bolt that all in, then remember from previously in the video, these brackets that were on the cross braces. Okay, these brackets just sit on there and can be moved in or out, so you can brace up not only the center cap, but the section of roof as a whole. So after putting the cap on, come back here. These 2 brackets are already there on either side, bolted to this support, okay? And then you want to just drill the hole through each one, so then you can drop these bolts in and tighten them up to help stabilize the center cap and the roof as a whole there. And you're going to do the same thing with this. This is where the roof splits on mine, because remember, with my observatory here, this roof splits in half. So this is where they join together. So as far as placement of these, where should these be placed? Well, this one that is on the gear rail, basically your roof's going to come up, and then this one, as I said earlier, is going to have a certain measurement to where you should set this at, okay? And that you'll get from Vito, depending on the size of your roof, whether you have 1 of these or 2 or more, it depends. And then Vito will tell you what the interval is for these to be spaced. Mine only took 1 in each section, and it was to be placed about half the distance between the end cross member and the front, the rear and the front cross pieces there. So that's where this one's set, which is just beyond where all these panels come together, and then the cap's going to go on. So this supplies support for all this and the angle you're going to need, for runoff, for rain, snow, etc. So these were already set at their interval, and you drill both of those holes, put a bolt through. It helps to keep this from like shaking in the wind and kind of chattering, and also gives support at a certain interval for the whole section of roof. Now these, as far as where you place them, I'm sure somebody with an engineering degree or whatever would be able to do the math and all such things to figure the optimal place to set these for support of the roof. I'll tell you what I did. So this is a natural flex point, where you have the cap piece and the perimeter pieces bolted together. That's a natural flex point, meaning this isn't solid. They come together. Lose a little bit of light because I got wind today and my door keeps blowing open and closed. So bear with the changing light in here right now. So anyway, so this is a flex point. So along this whole line here, that's weaker than obviously where it's solid to an extent, up until the run gets so long that the metal can tend to flex a lot. So there's a reason I set these where I did, and it's just something I did. I figured I wanted them there. There's no math behind this, no complicated formulas, I'm sorry. I just decided that I would go half the distance between where these panels come together and where the center gear rail is here, or the center of the cap piece. Just my thought process was, this is a flex point, yes, but also if I was to put these over right next to the flex point, that would help there, but then this whole run of this metal roof here would then have more of a tendency to flex itself, and maybe even when there's wind and stuff, get a little bit of chatter. So I just decided I was going to split the difference, set it there, drill my holes, bolt them in, and that just kind of gives it an even spacing. That's the thinking behind it. Just trying to balance out, not getting too long of runs without any type of support, so there would be too much flexure, and noting that the weakest point in the thing is right there, anywhere two panels bolt together. So that was my choice. You can put it wherever you want, or get hold of Vito. Maybe he can tell you an exact spot. When I spoke to him about it, he said, those are just for extra brace. You can put them wherever. So, again, if you're an engineer or something, you might be able to run some calculations that would tell you the optimal spot. The main thing is make sure that you do get all your braces, the holes drilled and bolted, so it just supplies a lot of support everywhere. Keeps everything from flexing too much, and just depending on your climate, where you are, whether you've got a snow load or whatever, it helps to support that. Okay, so easy enough on all of that. So the next thing I had to do when this was all together and all these braces were put in and bolted was, I have it together right now, but up in here, you're gonna see there's gasket in there. There's a seal, and that seal, here comes my inspector. Hey, inspector, you gonna check it out and tell me if everything was done right? It's Inspector Cassiopeia. Okay, so those seals that went on the roof where they come together came in rolls. There's two different types. One of them is this type. Let me bring this up here. It's just like a double seal with an adhesive backing. You peel off this white piece here, which is like, just paper backing kind of thing. And then it's sticky underneath that, between that and the rubber piece. And then that, you just press onto one side. Where the roof panels come up, one comes up straight, and it's only so tall. The other one comes up a little higher and then goes over, like that. And the other section of the roof comes in and sits in there, and they come together, right? So on one side, the side where it just comes straight up, not where it lips over, on that side is where you apply these gaskets. Without this open right now, and I can't push it open because I have the motors and the gear wheels set, but without opening this, I can just tell you that the other gasket material, which, let me see if I got the piece here. Yes, I do. Okay. Here's the other. And you'll see on this one, this has a little channel on the back right there. And this channel, that's right here, sits over that metal. Okay, with this in front, and this is where it squishes between the two sides of the roof. But this here, where that panel, the end of your roof comes in, it's got the panel that's straight up, not the one that lips over, straight up. That's where you put this. You just run this along there. Let me grab this up again. And you run that along that lip there, and the lip, trying to do this all with one hand, of the metal goes up in that channel. This just pushes down on that, and over the whole length, you just put it up there and push it down, push it down, push it down over that metal piece that's sticking up. See this comes over here and then turns up, has a lip on there about yay long. And that just rides along the top of that, just being pushed down on that so it holds onto that panel. Now this one here that has the adhesive, that one then goes just underneath that. So where I'm trying to see if I got enough light to show this or not. Okay, so you can see a little light there because I don't have this all the way pushed together yet. I haven't done that to make that tight, but you can see on the one side is the seal that has that clip running along it that you clip on the one that goes straight up. And on the one that has the lip, right under that lip, say if it was facing this way, under that lip all the way along it is where you run this one. They just put it right under where that lip is and run it right along in there, taking that backing off, and then just press it up against there. I would suggest, which is what I did, is first getting some rubbing alcohol and wet a cloth and go all along that and clean it up real good. Get it good and clean, and then let that evaporate off, and then stick your gasket on there. That'll create a nice good seal on a clean surface, and that stuff should stick up there for a long time. So once you do that, and then you can see at the ends, I've got to add a little bit of gasket material on either side there to finish, bringing that together. I did it on the tops and one side on either, but I had some rain that was coming in, so I wanted to get this closed up to keep it from raining inside the observatory. So now I'll go back and I'll finish up these two little sections on either side here to seal it pretty good and keep any kind of moisture out. So that's how you do your seals. Okay, once you do your seals, you can bring your roof together. And what I did is I brought it together in the middle here, put a little, push them closed on both sides, put a little clamp here just to hold them so they wouldn't shift, got them about as centered as I could here, just to hold them together enough to where they were in their position where they needed to be, pretty close to centered. And then I could set both of my gear wheels into the gear rail here, okay? And that was done, I pointed it out before, but I'll show it again. You loosen these bolts. Don't take them out, just loosen them, because you want this to be able to slide up and down inside this track, okay? Same for the other side, okay? There's 3 of them, you loosen them, just loosen, so they can slide up and down. Then push this up to where it was pretty close to lining up with the teeth on the gear rail here. And then I just snugged up the top and the bottom on either side, okay? And then once that's there, it'll hold itself up. And then you take these blocks, and this is the jack bolts, okay? I screwed them down all the way on either side. Then you loosen up these 2 bolts here, slide that up where your jack bolt touches the block, tighten those down. Do the same on the other side, okay? That way your motor's sitting there pretty close to meshing. The gear wheel is pretty close to meshing with the gear rail, and you're ready to make adjustments here. So now that your blocks are up there, you can again loosen these. Don't take them out, just loosen them, okay, on either side, and this will set on the blocks. Then you take your wrench, put it on those jack bolts, give it a couple of turns. Give the one on the other side a couple of turns, okay? And this will start to go up and seat into your gear rail here. You get your teeth lined up, it'll start going in there. And then once it meshes, the last thing you want to do, remember up here, is your seal I pointed out earlier in this whole series, that you don't want all the weight down to where it's smashing that. And there my door swung open again. Let me pull this closed to keep it from doing that. I got a little light in here right now, and we should have enough light to do this video. Yeah, see, there we go, a little light for right now. So you want to lift this by making those adjustments, lift your whole motor assembly up to where your gear wheel meshes with your gear rail, and then it lifts it enough. Do it till you can just see light coming underneath that gasket there. And then once you can see that along the run, then adjust these down a little bit, couple turns at a time, until that entire gasket is sitting on the top of that wall and you can't see light under it. That way you have a seal, but there's not so much weight on there that when the roof tries to close, it wants to basically tear that gasket out of there or pop it out. You just want it to squish a little bit so it provides a seal. You don't want it smashed in there. Same with this side, exact same process. You can see that along there. You just want it where you have jacked that up with the jack bolts enough to see light underneath it, just barely, and then let it down a little bit until all along the whole run, you have just started to compress that gasket. That's all you need. Then once that's done, you're all set. You tighten up these bolts, 6 of them, 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and you're all set. Now you have your motor together, you have the gear and the teeth here, nice, seated very nice. You have your gasket set properly. Now, last thing we want to go over here is there will be some caulking that you need to do. This observatory is not made to be airtight. It is not. Where these rails are, you can see there's a brush that sits here to help, keep a lot of debris and stuff coming in. But this is not designed to be airtight. What you want to do is keep, a lot of dust from coming in, leaves, snow and rain, things like that. Obviously, you want your equipment protected, but it's not going to be airtight. It's not made that way. So don't worry about the fact that, oh, this isn't completely sealed. How do I seal that up for, efficiency? It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be heating and cooling this anyway, to an extent. We'll touch on that, but you want your equipment inside to be protected from the elements, but you also don't want them too far off of the ambient temperature outside, depending on the type of telescope you have, because then it will take so long for your telescope to acclimate to the outside temperature. Once you open it, it limits the time you can use your instrument to view. Okay, so this is not made to be airtight or to be heated and cooled, so to speak. Okay, and we'll get back to that. But you do want it to protect your equipment, so you don't want it to get rained on or snow to build up and then it starts melting, dripping down on your telescopes and ruining your equipment, right? So having said all that, there's spots in this roof you're gonna have to caulk. Okay, we touched on it earlier, how to caulk these seams, and you do that before you put it together. But even once everything's together, you're gonna have little spots that are open, okay? And these, you wanna just take your caulk gun and you wanna caulk those, just to make sure you don't get water. These are actually all caulk. There's light out there so you can see through the caulk. The light penetrates the caulk, but moisture won't. And I did mention that I put this together and pulled this together before I finished the gaskets at the end because there was a rainstorm coming in. So after it rained, and there was a lot of rain over a good day's period, I came in and checked and no leaks, no drips. So you'll just close this up. You'll see where all these are. The light will show you where these spots are, okay, or where the panels come together. And you'll caulk those in these little seams here. And you caulk all of those, including the ones at the outside end. And so those are all caulked up and it was good. No leaks when it rained. Everything was good, okay? So again, you can still see the light, but that's because it's coming through the caulk. So hit all those spots, get it all caulked up. One is here at the end. This is where the two roof sections come together, but where the panels come together, there's going to be a gap. So see, this is all caulked here. So no leaks. So go around, make sure you get all your leaks. You want to keep moisture, rain, stuff like that off your equipment, okay? That comes pretty close to finishing this video, and then the only thing we'll have left is to go over putting in your control box for your roof sections. Whether you have a couple of sections or you have a smaller observatory and it's got just a one-piece roof that opens and closes, you're still going to have a control box, that's going to feed the power to your motor to open it and close it. Mine has two motors since it's a split roof, so this controller has two different controls for roof 1 and roof 2 to open and close. The connections where you set the speed at how fast it opens and closes the roof. We'll go over that in the next video. You'll have to set up right here is your sensors here that'll set up for, when your roof comes over, it'll hear that. Okay, it'll come over, a certain thing on there I'll show you will come and trip that. It'll shut off, the control box will shut off that motor so it doesn't just run your roof right off your building, okay? Same thing, this is for when you close it, it comes in and it touches it and knows when to stop. So they don't come together and just start butting heads and burn out your motors because nothing's telling it to stop closing. Okay, we'll go more into this in the next video, but that's about it after that. And then I'll talk about a couple other things, quick things, and we'll finish up this series and go from there. Okay, so I'll take this opportunity, since I needed to cut a hole through the side of the building in order to run electrical in there. This is a good opportunity to show you just what these walls are made of. So what they are is they're two sheets, an inner and an outer sheet of aluminum, and then a honeycomb in between. And I'm squeezing on that, doesn't budge at all. It's actually very durable, very strong, doesn't do a lot of flexing. Obviously this is small, so it's going to do less flexing than a larger piece, which will give more deflection. But this shows you what the wall is made of, and even on the bigger panels made for the wall, it's good and rigid. Don't have to worry about it flexing all over the place or anything like that. This isn't Home Depot aluminum that you're buying. It's just a very small, thin aluminum sheet, not much more than tin foil. Yeah, very nice, very good construction there.